my work is about light. Light is very universal. Light produces energy, and then produce everything in the world. So I think light is also kind of universal communication fashion. So people can feel the passion, feel the warmness, and then they can communicate through light and with light and sensations about different kind of lights. So that's the Bible says, as the light out, the light is there. So I think it's very important as a subject matter in my work. So actually in the Chinese art, especially in Chinese art history, there's no light presentation. So they all flatness. But in the West, Western style painting, you also use the light and the perspective to construct spatial and then every kind of, especially in the Impressionism, so the light become more and more obvious. So I try to integrate this kind of Chinese picture making fashion with Western pictorial effect. So it's more abstract, but it's between some kind of abstract and figurative. But the light, it's everywhere, but it's not a kind of particular abstract matter. So I want to play in a kind of game between your visual idea and also the concept of light, and also between the descriptive and an abstraction. So I think this is very, for me, it's very playful. And then I think for audience, especially when I show my work all over the world, people are always amazed with your work, with my work, because wow, this is totally Western abstract art, like optical art, or abstraction, or some they called minimalism. So I said, perhaps something in between, but it still have kind of painting quality in my work, not really like a rational abstraction, totally mechanical, but it's still very organic. So I think, especially in the global world right now, every kind of cultural heritage and concepts are totally merged together. So I want to, as an artist, I think I enjoy every kind of freedom to fusion everything together to create my own picture. I was educated, in my generation, especially during the late Cultural Revolution. Lightness is also, by the government, described as a kind of futuristic, and then brightness and liberation. So it's kind of the communist ideal society. So that's kind of brightness. And then always have the kind of contradictory with darkness. Darkness is backward, is contradictory, counter-revolutionary. It's kind of political ideology. In my childhood, it's all educated by this kind of linear, thinking about the dark and the light. So I was, in my childhood, I was grew up in a military compound. So it's not really countryside, but not also urban side. So it's also the late Cultural Revolution and then the beginning of a reform policy about nearly 40 years ago. 40 years ago, even 50 years ago, electricity not accessible to ordinary people. They only with candle at night. So in the daytime, outside, outdoor is very, very bright, and then indoors dark. So you can see through using the latex of the window and seeing the pictures of paper cars. So people feel very warm. And then in the night, and then with candlelight, the interior is brighter than outside. So outside people will see the window, can imagine what the the interior people's living and the life, how warm how their life they are. So I think this kind of light, the manipulation of light in people's daily life. And then when I was grew up, I traveled in the West. I visited a lot of cathedrals, churches. So it's impressed me a lot. It's all the high-rise domes with all high-rise light, and then the glass paintings, and so overwhelming. So I think at that time I feel kind of spiritual stuff from outside the world and concentrate in the church. So in this sense, I feel the light in the Western churches are manipulated both by the architecture and both communicate with singing and the colors. I think light play a big role to integrate all about these kind of elements. I think in contemporary art world, I still can do something with the light to integrate awareness about the light, both in the China, the history, and in the West. I think my experiments about the light is really affected me a lot to create this kind of work. It's kind of fantasy, works. When people view to see my work, because it's not really light. It's not. It's kind of fantasy or illusion about the light, and it reminds the viewer about their own experiments about the light. So I think this also reminded me about the optical art in Europe in the 60s. So optical art is a kind of development of abstraction, right? So it's more about more mechanical, more manufactured somehow. So although I'm very amazed at it, but I find with this kind of traditional ink painting, it shows kind of different kind of sensibility about the light. So this also reminds me, this kind of light, because this ink painting is diluted by water. So with a different density of the water in the ink, they have kind of generate kind of layers on the greenish. So it's become both are kind of space and the light. So this is all entwined together. So because it's with a strong kind of sensibility of water, so the light some kind of can vibrate with kind of sense of the water. The light spread on the water always with kind of vibration. So it's with the title of the. So I think this kind of sensation about the light is different, very different with the optical art. So I think I'm not creating something kind of in between about East and West, classic and modern, and then tradition, and then contemporary awareness.